Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Better Call Saul, Season 3, Episode 2, Witness, Meredith, Alonso. Again, a show that is not afraid to take its time on things.
And it was much appreciated, that whole opening, well, the Mike's opening bit, like this was good. I had my complaints last week about it feeling a little too slow for a buildup, but no, this, I'm just like, Gus is back, and how perfect, I just love that moment with Jimmy's like, by the way, Jimmy, worst detective ever. Just like, I'm gonna, what?
He has no game face.
No, he doesn't. I'm like, come on.
He's a great liar, but he's a terrible bluffer.
He really is. I'd love to play poker with that man. But just that whole little happenstance of oh, he's gonna get caught. I'm like, oh no, of course, this is Gus. Gus is the nicest criminal in the world.
Well, yeah, and say what you will about Gus, he is a great food service professional.
He really is. He takes his time with it.
Knows how to manage and great with the clients and what are you gonna do?
I know.
So yeah, it's funny. My immediate thought was that painting looked like a stock market crash myself.
Yeah, I know, and I like when he asked that. I'm like, a little foreshadowing, but not really.
I did very much though. That gave them the excuse to bring back the two thumbs.
Yeah, and then when he rips it off, and then okay, so we get Jimmy, we get some good Jimmy and Kim action. That's great. I was really excited, but introducing the office secretary, the secretariat office
Francesca.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's good. Glad to know she's been with Jimmy since the beginning.
Oh yeah. And but I love that she immediately adopts the let's talk about Cracker Barrel.
Literally with everyone, you'll hear in the background be like, oh, Dan, have you tried the soup at Cracker Barrel? I'm like, oh my God, that's so good.
I'm sure she deepens her reservoir of chit chat as time goes on.
A lot happened this episode. There was a lot of little things and a lot of big things. We saw, obviously we saw the introduction of Francesca. We saw the introduction of Gus Fring. We see Mike ultimately, his whole plan, all this planning and trying to go after these people, and it ends with them.
They're on par with him as far as figuring this stuff out.
We got this. So and it's interesting because it builds up to see just. I'm excited to see just how Mike ends up working for Gus, and I'm starting to see the breadcrumbs now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's passing a series of tests. Who knows?
I think that's really what it's going to be.
I'm still curious about what exactly is Chuck's end game.
Right? I think everyone's curious, and I love how wrong he was about, Jimmy's gonna come in and steal the tape in the middle of the night.
In the dark night.
No, he's pissed, and he and I love that. Watching that Bob Odenkirk just get into that betrayal that he felt. It was so good to see that side of him, just to finally just let it all out, and Chuck to just be like, oh God, but not for once did Chuck ever feel remorse for destroying his family.
He only feels bad that he mischaracterized how this was all going to go down. But that whole, again, this being a show that takes its time, that whole opening sequence of Chuck checking the windows and checking the doors and talking to the guy and that paranoia that is seeping into him, which is only going to get worse, obviously. So I mean, I think we've already seen this character being on a trajectory of having these issues with his most likely psychosomatic issues with electricity or whatever, and now he's getting more Nixonian as it goes along.
Yeah, it's like they haven't really gone into that diagnosis that he's a not paranoid schizophrenic, but almost but in that paranoia, they've been treating it as he's like, oh, I'm allergic to the outside world, but the real issue is that this man has deep-seated mental issues, and I think that's going to ultimately be what destroys him, is that lack of, obviously I'm looking at it in modern terms and not 15 years ago where the show is set, where they would treat things differently, but I think it's going to be an interesting parallel, and I kind of like that they're dealing with that.
15 years ago when they used leeches.
I know, right? No, but even then, we've come a long way with diagnosing
always, yes, it's a thing that keeps rolling.
But, oh God, I wonder, I mean, and I love every episode, but every episode always builds up oh, what's gonna happen next week? Because we know that, we get to see Jimmy defend himself, and we get to see the transformation into a criminal lawyer, which we know Saul to be. So I'm really excited to see how he defends himself against Chuck.
Yeah, I mean, again, we always say this, but this show really sort of defies what you would expect, what most shows that were prequels would do.
Yeah.
You know, I think usually you sort of get locked into this sort of what I call the kind of Muppet Babies syndrome, where like, you know, oh yes, we're friends now, and we've been friends our entire lives, you know, and this is a show that's actually able to sort of bring people in the fold and show you people that weren't around later, and you're left to figure out, well, why is that? Why is Kim not around? Why is Chuck not around?
Speaking of Kim, to see her go into like lawyer mode, like that was
exciting.
I know. She's like, all right, we've got this. We're going to do this. Okay, he can't really get you on this, but I'm like, oh my God, Kim, yes, we get to see like what a good lawyer.
Yeah,
she really
I will give her $1 any day of the week.
Yeah, exactly, or 20, you know. But yeah, that was good. She got some really good. I'm excited. I'm kind of sad she won't be defending Jimmy. But
well, I mean, we think. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure she'll be at least providing support or notes or whatever. So yeah, but so much of this episode is about kind of plotting and staking out and watching and looking for clues and trying not to get caught and, you know, not succeeding in very different levels of not succeeding. So yeah, I really love how this narrative is playing out, and again, this is one of those shows where I'm sure they don't get mammoth ratings, but they get awards and they get reviews and they get talked about, and people like us get obsessed with it. And so I think they know they don't have to pander in a way that I think a lot of serialized dramas do.
Exactly. No, and I think having that. And it allows, you know, Vince and the whole team to do what they want. And it's really great. It's nice. And it's something that we can appreciate. And I kind of feel that, though, for like all the shows that you and I typically review, they're the shows that take the big chances.
Sure, yeah. And especially, I mean, when you look at like Vince Gilligan coming off of Breaking Bad, like that's when a creator has the chits to really like, you know, do something that's unusual or different, and you know, they're more likely to get a green light from a network or whatever. So for him to, I think on the one hand, people might have thought, oh, but he's gonna stay in this universe, like that's lazy or whatever. But he is, I think, using the opportunity of, all right, like not only am I coming off of Breaking Bad, I'm still giving you a show that will remind you in certain ways of Breaking Bad, but I'm gonna get to play with narrative and play with pacing and things like that to, you know, to make the kind of television I want to do, and ideally you'll still be watching it, and so I think that a lot of the audience has followed to, to that.
Yeah, and I like too, because it's brought on people who didn't want to watch Breaking Bad, but they're watching this, because I know for some people the drugs, the violence, and just like the heaviness of Breaking Bad turned a lot of like my friends off, but they love Better Call Saul.
Oh, cool.
So,
yeah, no, and I think, you know, like if Odenkirk is a draw, you know, and he just gets every episode. I feel like I'm seeing new facets of this guy's talent. It's really been amazing.
You know what's interesting? We didn't get this episode. We didn't get a preview of him back in the future at Cinnabon. I just remembered that.
Well, we don't necessarily get
right,
that. That's usually the beginning of the season.
Oh, you're
thing,
right.
And
then
you know,
towards the end, you're right.
Yeah,
it's been a while. It's been a hot second.
No, I hear you. All right, so another great episode. I will not be here next week, but Meredith and I'm sure Ben will be. So tune in then. Thanks.